been saying during the review?
Yeah.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome, councillors and officers, to this live-streamed meeting of the Health, Safe, Clean and Green Communities Scrutiny Committee at Bolsover District Council. This is a public meeting being streamed live to YouTube and via the council's website. If for any reason the public can no longer hear or see the meeting over the live stream, we will adjourn the meeting until the connection has been re-established. This meeting is also being recorded. Can the facilitator confirm who is in remote attendance at the meeting, please?
Yes, good morning, Chair. I'm just going to read out the names of the members of the committee who are present this morning. If I can just ask you to introduce yourself once I've read out your name, and then just confirm you're connected to the meeting, you can see and hear what's going on. So we've got the Chair, Councillor David Downs. Yeah, David Downs, Shirebrook South, I can see and hear everyone. And then we've got Councillor Anne Clark.
Councillor Anne Clark, Bolsover East Ward, and yes, I can hear and see everybody.
Lovely. We've got Councillor Rose Bowler.
Yeah, Councillor Rose Bowler, Bolsover South Ward, I can see and hear okay.
And Councillor Janet Tate.
Yeah, Councillor Janet Tate, Shirebrook South, I can hear and see everybody.
Councillor Tom Monroe.
Good morning, Councillor Tom Monroe, Whitwell Ward. Yes, I can see and hear everybody. Good morning, all.
Councillor Yvonne Parkin.
Good morning. Yes, I can see and hear everybody. South Normanton West.
And Councillor Dexter Bullock.
Good morning, everybody. Councillor Dexter Bullock, Blackwell Parish, and I can see everybody and hear everybody. Thank you.
Also present in the meeting this morning, we have Councillor Deborah Watson, who's the portfolio holder for environmental health and licensing. And for officers, we have the Scrutiny Elections Officer, Joe Wilson, Amar Bashir here to present the performance monitoring report, and myself and Tom Scott from Governance. Okay, Chair.
Thank you, Amy. Can I ask that you now explain some of the procedures of the meeting, please?
Of course, yes. So the meeting etiquette room applies to this meeting, and all members are asked to keep their microphones muted during the meeting unless you're called to speak and your camera's on. If you wish to speak, either raise your hand or type speak in the chat function, and the chair will call on you when ready. And then voting will be done by a show of hands today. So when the chair does ask for a call of vote, if you can make sure your hand's visible on screen so we can see which way you're voting. And if you have any technical problems, then contact one of the support officers listed in the email with the Zoom details that was sent to you this morning. Okay, Chair.
Thank you, Amy. We'll now begin the meeting and follow the agenda. And Tom, have we any apologies for absence, please?
Chair, I've received apologies from Councillor Peter Roberts.
Any other apologies from anywhere else? No? Okay, we'll continue on to item 2, which is urgent items of business. And I've got no urgent items of business for today's meeting. So we'll move on to item 3, which is declarations of interests. And as usual practice, could I ask that if there's any declarations of interest to be made for today's meeting, can you do that as we go along? And Amy will pick that up and make sure that your declarations are noted. And item 4, minutes of the previous meeting. So starting on page 5 of your agenda pack, we have the minutes from the 15th of December meeting for approval. I can't move these because I wasn't actually present, Joanne, can I? So I need to get, if Anne can move those, and then if we can get a second.
I'm more than happy to move them, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Monroe. Can I have a seconder, please?
I'll second them.
I think Anne was just in a little bit before you, if that's okay. So I'll take Anne as a seconder, please. Thank you. Is there any matters arising on the minutes of the meeting from the 15th of December? Any questions? Okay, sorry?
No one's indicating, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Amy. Can I ask for a vote on all in favour of the minutes of the meeting on the 15th?
That's everyone in favour, Chair.
Thank you very much. So we'll go to item 5, which is list of key decisions. The link to most recent and forthcoming decisions can be found on page 9 of the agenda pack and on the committee software system. Could I ask the scrutiny officer to brief members on the report, please?
Thank you, Chair. Just bear with me 1 second. I'm just getting to the document. So on the current version of the forward plan, we have the medium-term financial plan, which actually went to executive back in January and will be being presented to members at council tomorrow. That's already been approved by executive. Coming up later this month in February, there is an item on housing enforcement and community safety by the head of housing management and enforcement. There's also an item on development of a new build scheme within the Whitwell ward for Sandy Lane and Thorpe Avenue area, and a further item on the discretionary grant funding. There's going to be an update to members from the Assistant Director of Development and Planning, Chris Fridlington. If members have any particular questions on the reports that are for February, they are obviously able to speak to the key officers for that or the portfolio holders. I don't know if members have any particular questions I can attempt to answer.
Anybody got any questions or any observations?
I can't see anyone indicating, Chair.
Okay, can I like to move that we note the report, and can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Anne Clark, thank you. All those in favour?
That's everyone in favour, Chair.
Thank you very much. And we'll move on to item 6, which is corporate ambitions performance update, October to December. And I think we're handing over to you now, Amor.
Thank you very much, Chair. Yes, I'll just share my screen and bring the report up. Thank you. So this is the Q3 report from October to December 2020. Just to be mindful that there was a 2-week lockdown during this period, and again, that will be shown in the report. But just to give a summary, what I will do is just go through the summary of the targets and go through the appendix to answer any questions. So for the council ambitions, there are 13 targets in total. 8 are on track, 1 was previously achieved, and there are 4 that have been affected by COVID. For service indicators, there are 12 indicators in total, 6 have positive outturns, 5 have been affected by COVID, and 1 has a negative outturn. So if it's okay, Chair, I'll go to the appendix of the report.
Yeah, that's fine, thank you.
Thank you. Just to mention before I go through the report, there were a number of questions that were raised at the pre-meet. Now, unfortunately, due to timescales, we haven't been able to send out the questions to officers, but it's my intention to send out the questions after the meeting and hopefully to get responses by the end of the week for members in a written form. So just to go through, I'll only go through the ones that are either COVID affected or highlighted other than on track. So page 1, everything is on track, Chair. Page 2, so environment 06, increase the number of fixed penalty notices for litter and dog fouling, 20 per year. There is an explanation from the lead officer that due to lockdown restrictions, much of the proactive patrolling has been suspended. There's a suggestion from the lead officer that this target now be changed from 20% per year to 20% over the 5-year period. Okay. Moving along. Cost 07, reduce the average relets for standard voids, council properties to 20 calendar days by March 2021 and maintain thereafter. Again, we've discussed this in quite some detail in previous meetings, and I know other scrutiny committees have looked at this. But to give a summary, voids continue to remain a high priority. We've issued a first ward void report. I said that was a mouthful, to ensure members are kept informed regarding voids in their area. So I think that was a suggestion from the previous meeting. Currently, the void times are 212 days for minors and 159 days for majors, with 210 days for all voids accounted for. Now, again, there is a summary. There's been discussions in terms of what is counted in terms of the void outturn. There is some more information provided by Ian, and these figures include a number of voids that have been empty for many days whilst awaiting capital schemes, and then they in return they show falsely inflated work for minors, which significantly bump up the figure. So again, if we remove those, that would be 96 days. Similar, there's a suggestion that all these figures are far from target. We're determined to report them openly with transparency. And then no properties have been removed unless agreed by the portfolio holder. I think there is conversation that there will be some agreement with the portfolio holder in terms of how we report these going forward and what's included and what's excluded. COVID-19 and a number of other properties that have formed part of the capital scheme are currently in the letting process, but it is unlikely these targets will be achieved by the end of March 2021. And finally, Ian has mentioned that they're doing all that they can whilst we are waiting lockdown restrictions to be lifted, including pre-determination visits. Yeah, I think we've got a question, Chair.
If I may, Chair.
Sorry, I need some guidance on that. Yeah, thanks, Tom. Sorry.
If I may, Chair, yes. Thank you for the report on the voids. I know it's something that all members, quite rightly, feel very keen about. And I'm not dissing, and I appreciate, especially within my own ward, I'm aware, for example, that at the Thorpe Avenue Sandy Lane development, which is a capital project and will be started somewhere around about March, April this year, I'm aware, for example, there have been at least 4 or 5 bungalows that have been void and empty for a very long time, and I appreciate that. However, with the greatest of respect, we mustn't lose sight of the fact that 96 days, when they're taken out of the scheme, still represent.
Sorry, Tom, we have lost you.
So let's not lose sight of that. Yeah.
Tom, we did lose you for a minute or two.
Yeah, I just hope that we can continue, like the other scrutiny committees, to keep pressure on housing in a polite and reasonable and rational way, to keep trying to reduce that void time to as low as we can possibly make it as a council, to reduce the number of people living in totally unsuitable accommodation because voids are not being progressed quickly enough. So it's just a little note of caution, if I may, Chair. Okay.
Thank you for that, Tom. There is some supplementary questions around that, and we have asked that question to them. That's what Amar was referring to earlier, that he'd got those questions a little bit late and obviously couldn't go to the right officers to give us the answers.
Thank you.
But we are asking those questions. Thank you. Can you continue, Amar, please?
Yes, thank you. And just one final thing, and we did speak to Ian just before submitting this report, that Ian Barber is happy to attend the meeting if requested by officers to give a further explanation. And again, that is up to members' request. Moving along. Again, CUS 09 and CUS 10, these are the leisure facilities ones. And again, due to lockdown, these have been affected. And that's to increase participation by 3,000 per year, and also to deliver the health intervention programme and to provide 500 adults per year with an exercise plan through the referral scheme. So with regards to leisure attendance, at the moment, we're running at a total of 32,583 per year. Up until this financial year. And also with the health referral scheme, it has been suspended due to COVID. However, we are working closely with public health to make sure that once everything is up and running again, the facilities will be safe. In the meantime, we're keeping in contact with individuals and film classes that can be accessed through Bolsover TV. If there's no questions, I'll move on to service indicators. So service indicators for street scene, all are above target and showing positive outcomes. For environmental health, there are a few that have been affected by COVID and one is below target. So again, a lot of these have been suspended due to the food agency at their request. So Eho9, percentage of high-risk food interventions undertaken against the programme. So like we mentioned, it has been suspended. And again, that's due to the national lockdown. All high-risk premises will receive an intervention by the end of this financial year. Eho4, so this is below target. Percentage of business inquiries responded within 3 working days. So out of the 135 that were received in the Bolsover area, 105 were responded to within time, giving a 78% outturn. And again, a lot of these, there's been a large increase in service requests due to COVID-related requests. And they've taken priority. Also due to the volume of work, the database updates are outstanding, and due to other priority duties, which is misrepresenting the figures as well. So I think there's been an update to the database that's caused some information. Moving along, Eho9 Enforcement. Again, as mentioned before, this has been suspended due to COVID. And the leisure targets, again, these are just duplicates of the council plan. Both, as you can see, are COVID affected and are below target. And that concludes the report, Chair.
Thank you, Amar. Has anybody got any questions for Amar on any of the report that he's just gone through for us?
Councillor Nick Clark's indicating, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Clark, Nick Clark, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It's not so much a question, it's more going back to page 13 of the pack. It mentions the meeting we were going to have in January. Unfortunately, that was postponed due to the COVID lockdown, because it came immediately as the lockdown started and staff were otherwise engaged, unfortunately, so they were unable to facilitate the meeting that day, which was a shame because we had a heavy agenda that day, and a report was going to be up on the tree planting programme, and also Chris Riddington was going to be updating the group on the installation of electric vehicle charging points in the council car parks throughout Bolsover district. So just to make you aware why, but unfortunately that meeting's now being postponed, not postponed, but the next meeting is scheduled for the 9th of March because they didn't reschedule the January meeting.
Okay, Councillor Clark, thank you for that. Has anybody got any other observations on the report? Joe, do we need to go through the points that we raised, or are we happy to do that? Because Omar's received it, it's sending it to the relevant officers, or do we need some of the people, some of the...
It depends if members want to just have a heads up of the additional questions. I was about to say thank you to Councillor Clark, because that does actually answer our question in relation to M1, so we don't need to follow that up any further. Yeah. But if members want to have an understanding of the additional questions that we have asked, because some of them linked with targets that were considered on track, we could run through those. I
think it'd be useful. Do you want to go through that, please?
Yeah, I can do. So on MVO2, the corporate target, we were queried if it was possible to get final figures presented broken down so we could see the difference between buildings and fleet in terms of impact on CO2 emissions. We appreciate that's only going to be kind of a once a year thing. For MVO3, we had quite a discussion on this at pre-meet. We raised lots of concerns that it appears the staff seem to be permanently on catch-up in relation to the red bin collections, and we're aware there's been talk of ongoing staffing issues. We wondered kind of what was happening really in terms of additional support to the contract, whether they were potentially using agency staff to support what was being delivered, or the requirements of the contract from a delivery point of view. It was also raised that we'd been aware of some glitches potentially with the online reporting system when people are trying to report non-collection. That's not necessarily working to the degree it needs to. Members were just generally concerned as to why collections were so off track, and they were aware that it was affecting not just us as a district, but all 3 districts that are within the contract for the red bins. And the general query was around whether we'd made an assessment as to the impact of having a contract over such a wide area currently. You know, what was deliverable going forward, essentially.
Joe, can I just interrupt you? Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Councillor Nick
Sorry,
Clark.
we had a lot to say on that one.
Yeah. No, thank you. Councillor Nick Clark, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Just in relation to the ENV 2 and 3, there is a report going to the next executive meeting regarding carbon emissions. That's part of the report. And on ENV 3, that's basically Joe's saying what I was going to just, contribute. I mean, there is a major issue with the ward's operation at the moment, and I think there's been various emails between officers and portfolio holders, etc. And hopefully that will be addressed and representations made with wards as to how that performance can be improved.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Clark. Joe, if you want to proceed, please.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Are you happy that that kind of answers those questions, or would you prefer a little bit more detail from Steve Brunt still?
I would still want, no, yeah, I'm happy what Nick Clark's just told, Councillor Clark's just told us, but I would still like the, further information from Steve, if that's okay.
So then in relation to customer 06, we queried what support was currently available for those at risk of eviction or homelessness during COVID pandemic, and we wondered what was actually taking place to help to intervene to stop any evictions or support preventative action, and it was queried whether how much we were able to do this versus only being able to intervene and support once they were officially homeless.
Can I bring Councillor Deborah Watson in, please, Joe?
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Watson.
Thank you, Chair. I did raise my hand. Am I visible on screen? I can't see on mine.
No, I can't see you. All I can see is the report at the minute.
I can see you now, Councillor Watson. Yeah, you can respond.
Okay. Yeah, obviously I'm the portfolio holder for the waste collections. Steve Brunt will give you an awful lot more detail about that. There have been some concerns with wards. There's a lot of work going on in the background with Karen Hansen and Steve Brunt looking at the terms of the contract and ensuring that they're up to date, and various other endeavours have been put in place to help them. There have been some issues with their new site at Corbriggs, which is a waste processing site. Okay, They had some technical difficulties there. They had a COVID issue there. There are various things in the background going on, but at the end of the day, we need to ensure that that contract continues, because we've another about 4 or 5 years on that. And in the interim, Steve Brunt again will elaborate even further. There are a lot of new requirements going to come through from government on what we have to do with compostable waste, food waste and things like that. So there will be no earthly point in doing anything knee-jerk at the moment, when actually our targets may well change due to government. So we're doing everything we can at the minute in the background with contract negotiations, dealing with wards to ensure that they're back on track. They are this week currently on track. There were, of course, as you're aware, issues with the weather and things like that. But, at the end of the day, I have to say, as portfolio holder, yes, I've got some concerns, and we do know that wards need to improve. But we do know also that in a lot of other areas there have been missed collections and all sorts, all put down to COVID and the weather and things like that. Yes, our residents may have had late collections, but nobody's missed a collection. In the end, we've caught up. We have had to send some of our lorries in to catch up on some weeks when wards have had difficulties either with staff or their lorries or whatever. But every time we do that, we do recharge to them. So it is all in hand. Like I say, by all means, get Steve Brunt along, because he can go into more technical details than I can. But as portfolio holder, I'm happy that we're handling it in the best way we can at the minute. Like I say, Karen Hansen's involved as well, and there's some high-level negotiations going on to make sure we're going to get where we need to be. All right.
Thank you for that, Councillor Watson. Appreciate the update. Can I bring Councillor Tom Munro in, please?
Yes, can I? Thank you, Chair. And can I thank Councillor Deborah Watson for her input and Councillor Nick Clark. My only question back to Councillor Watson is, what are the leadership and herself able to do in respect of communicating that to all of our parishioners and all of our constituents to make sure that they're aware of why there have been problems and what steps we've taken to resolve them, and giving them some confidence that things are okay. I just think there's a need to communicate with the public using our website, etc., and even Facebook where it's appropriate.
Can I come back on that, Chair?
You can, yes, please.
I don't know if you read the last In Touch. I wrote a small article in there just saying, you know, come on, please bear with us. We have had all these difficulties. Again, we don't want to go into too much of the technical detail, do we? We put that on there. Wards are tasked with letting us know when they've got misses. Those are then sent to Scott Chambers. He's meant to put them on the website as soon as he can. Obviously, if occasionally wards don't let them know, then Scott can't do that. I'm not convinced at all that Facebook is the right place. I'm really not. I do use Facebook myself as a local ward member. I make sure I find out for this area. But I think sometimes the difficulty with us as a district putting it on Facebook is people misunderstand. I've had that in myself, and I have to be very careful now. And when I put a post on about the bins, I have to say, this is for Tibshelf. Because I've got friends, obviously, on Facebook who come from different areas, who've got different days of collection, and so on and so on, and so the confusion. So we do have to be very careful how we communicate it. But the article that I wrote for In Touch did say, come on, guys, you know, we're doing the best we can under difficult circumstances. It's the same for wards, as we've already said. They've had issues where they've had to have staff to self-isolate and all these ongoing things that every business is suffering from. But at the end of the day, yes, people have sometimes had their bins emptied late. They've never missed a collection yet. So I think overall, if you look at it at the bigger picture, it's not that bad.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Watson.
Thank you.
Joe, would you like to carry on, please?
Yeah, no problem. And then we had a query on customer 07, but to some extent, I think we discussed that earlier. Again with the queries from Councillor Munro. So we are seeking some additional information there. And we did point out quite strongly that, you know, while it's useful to have all the commentary, ultimately the target is in relation to standard voids, and one of our suggestions is that there's a potential for 2 targets, one for standards and one covering majors, so we can actually see that information separate, because to have it all in one commentary we felt was very misleading to some extent. So we think that could be an improvement going forward. Customer 08, our comment here, this is quite a new target, and we felt that to have a status of on track was a little bit misleading as a new target, because there are 2 elements to this. One of them is about starting to be able to physically report on satisfaction levels. However, they are also currently developing the system for measuring that. So we felt that there were 2 elements to this. And maybe it would actually be better to separate out those 2 parts of the actual reporting of figures once we have figures, but also separately to see the process or progress, on development of a monitoring system.
Joe, was this one where we raised as well why they got no information in the first place? Am I on the right bit for that, or is that
was I don't think it was in relation to this.
Was it customer satisfaction?
There was there's a
I thought we discussed that they got no information and they were starting a new system or something, and we were like,
no, that was what we discussed. If you look into the commentary that's on screen, they're obviously talking about using the STAR survey as a method. And I commented that it was something that's been around for a while, so we queried why we perhaps hadn't used that mechanism before.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
And I've had a general query as well, which I need to pass back to members. I've now I had some information through from Tommy Rush that was just, oh no, sorry, that was a different one. That was a litter, which I've passed back to members. So we had a general query as well around how we were actually engaging with those businesses that are running takeaway services currently, in terms of, are they requiring additional certificates to say that they're COVID secure? What are they actually having to do in order to be able to operate under the current circumstances? How do we ensure that they are remaining compliant? And how do we get an understanding of the businesses that are COVID compliant locally, so that as ward members you're able to report potential breaches of that? I don't know if this is something that Councillor Watson could shed any light on potentially. I'm not sure.
Morning. Do you want to answer?
Yes, please, Councillor Watson, if you'd like to come in.
This is really disconcerting because you can't see yourself on screen.
I know, yeah, sorry.
It's really weird. Yeah, I know, back last year, about August, September time, Environmentalists did produce some really, really good booklets for businesses explaining to them how they need to be COVID compliant. Those were issued, well, they were all distributed online. Well, businesses have all had those, and loads of inspections have been done of the business. I think they were mostly reactive. We obviously haven't been able to get around to every single business. I'm not aware of any other certification to say that you are COVID compliant. I think, some of the rules are quite obvious to us all. And if you think that in a takeaway people aren't wearing masks or they're letting too many people in, then do ring into environmental health and they will investigate where they can. I don't know any more than that. You'd have to address that to Ken Eastwood beyond that, I think, please.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Watson.
Councillor Munro's indicating.
Sorry, I can't see. Councillor Munro, do you want to come in, please? Yes, please. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm sorry to go back to CUS 08. I too, when I read this, queried the first line saying we don't capture customer satisfaction formally and the on track. And I wonder, are we in a position to challenge that and ask for it until such times as they are in a position to actually do that it's changed to something like pending? Because to say it's on track when they haven't got a system is with the greatest of respect a bit of a nonsense. Just an observation.
Thank you, Councillor Munro. Yeah, I think we agreed with that when we were discussing it. It can't be on track if we've got nothing in place, we've got nothing to monitor it against. So
yeah, that was David.
Yeah, thank you. Jo, carry on, please.
That's everything, Chair.
Okay, so after that, I'd like to thank Amar for his presentation. Appreciate that. And can I have, I would like to recommend at point 6 within the report on page 11 of the papers, can I have a seconder, please? And I can't see anybody, so
Councillor Anne Clark's indicating to second, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Anne Clark. So that's approved then for the recommendations on page 6. Could we have a show of hands? And Amy, you're going to have to do this again. Oh, there we are. We're all back. Show of hands, please. All those in favour.
That's everyone indicating in favour, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Amar, again for your presentation. Really appreciate it. And you're free to leave the meeting.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you.
Right, so we'll move on to item 7, which is work programme. And we'll now consider the work programme for the coming year. And I'll pass over again to the scrutiny officer. Thank you, Jo.
Thank you, Chair. So, as usual, members have got the work programme looking ahead to the rest of the year. We've only got a couple more meetings left out of this municipal year. So today we've had the Q3 report, and we're also going to be doing some prep work for our forthcoming meeting, looking at the Community Safety Partnership and further review work. At our March meeting, we will be having our annual review of the Community Safety Partnership, which I'll talk to you more about in our informal session later. And the May meeting, we have Q4 performance update. So quite light meetings running to the end of the municipal year, Chair. As part of your report today, we've also got 2 scopes for approval. Before I move on to those, have anybody got any queries on the actual meetings that are coming up? If not, I'll move on. Okay, so at the last informal meeting, we had quite a discussion around some issues that have been raised by a number of residents and passed through to our Customer Standards and Complaints Officer. We then have discussed whether these could be combined as one review, but members felt inclined to do them as two separate topics. So the first one in your papers is around the council's policy on use of sky lanterns and helium balloons within the district. This is obviously set out as the usual scope style. We were quite specific about doing consultation on this, which obviously is something we need to develop further as we work on the review topic. But what we have got on this to support us is a report that went to North East Council last year, and we've looked at that and obviously feel that that would be a useful document to replicate something similar for Bolsover. So I appreciate, obviously, it's in draft format. Are members okay with that at this stage? Is there anything else they'd like to amend on that scope document, or are you okay with that as it is?
Looks like everybody's okay. Nobody's indicating, I don't think.
Yeah.
Comments, so if you want to carry on.
Okay.
Joe,
And then to the second scope that's attached at Appendix 3, this is page 32 of your papers, was around Council's policy on fireworks. So again, we discussed various bits of information as part of our informal session last time. We noted that we'd had a motion previously to Council in 2019, and members agreed a range of actions at that point. And so one of the things that we would be looking to do as part of this review is to look back at what was agreed as part of that motion and any further action that can be taken on that, and then also to assess the scale locally of the impact, again looking to do some consultation with councillors and residents, with the potential to then develop some sort of local level policy. We've obviously talked about the limitations on this in terms of only having jurisdiction over our own land and property, because there is national legislation which we would have to fall in line with. Do members have any particular comments on that draft scope? Is there any amendments that they want?
Councillor Tom Munro, please.
Just a question, please, Chair, nothing more. Within the consultation, is it possible, are we going to be specific as to who we're going to consult with? Because speaking with, I'm sure, I'm like most people present who are members, in my role as a parish councillor, I'm sure many of you are town councillors, etc. It's certainly an area about which we as a council get a lot of correspondence of different types, some pro, some anti, the usual sort of thing. So will our consultation also be with parish councils, because I'm sure they may well have a view to offer? I just wondered if that was included. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, if that's what you want to include, you know, you're setting the agenda for this, so there's nothing to say that we can't formally, you know, target them to respond. Obviously, their own responses is down to them, but yeah, we can certainly try to encourage response from parish councils. That's fine.
I would like to see that, Chair.
Yeah,
yeah.
Something we get a lot of complaints about, and obviously this year it's been aggravated by the very fact that alongside all the other parish councils and town councils, we weren't able to run our usual display, and our normal display the last couple of years when we held it attracted in excess of 4,000 people. Now there aren't that many people who are going to come out for a firework display, so we're bringing people from elsewhere, and that reduces individuals holding displays, which is what we're trying to encourage, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah,
that's why I think it's valid to talk to parish and town councils.
Yeah, thank you for your comments, Councillor Monroe. Can I bring Councillor Tate in, please?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It's just an idea, really. Tom referred to the council-held firework displays, and moving forward, can we look into just using silent fireworks where it's a council display, or something that's very low for sound, you know, rather than the big bang ones? Because I know there are fireworks out there that are silent, and if we could just use them for council and public displays, I'm sure that would encourage other people maybe to switch to using a similar product?
I think it's perhaps something we can do as part of the consultation, Joe. Do you think?
Yeah, I think we need to look into what the possibility is and how readily available they are.
You know, if the councils can sort of lead by example on what they're wanting their residents to do, then that's obviously got to be a good thing, hasn't it?
Yeah.
You know, we've got to practice what we're wanting to preach. So
yeah, I mean, predominantly the displays across the district are parish council displays. They're not necessarily displays that we run as a district council per se. So I think, yes, in terms of trying to set a level, I think that is where we look to get that buy-in.
I think what we need to be sort of mindful of as well, colleagues, is that we can only look at, is it council owned property land? We can't look at private residents. You know, so if a council house is next to a private resident, they could have a display, the council property. This is where we've got to try and push something sort of nationally, I think, haven't we? And get onto government about what they're doing about this, this problem, because it is becoming a big problem. I don't know if anybody sort of realised that this new year seemed to be louder than it's ever been with fireworks. I don't know if you've had the same problem in your wards, but definitely in Shirebrook there was a lot went up and a lot that made, it was like the Blitz almost. so yeah, sorry, Joe, carry on.
No, so if they're the main points that members want to raise, they'll kind of stand as they are unless we need to make any sort of minor tweaks as we're actually working. But I've tried to kind of cover all the bases. I didn't want to list absolutely everybody that we'd consult with, because I think we might need to adjust that slightly once we've produced whatever survey it may be. So if members are happy with that, Chair, we just need to formally approve the report and the appendices.
Yeah, so if we can, I'd like to move the recommendation again at point 6 within the report on page 23 of your papers. And can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Munro. And could the facilitator confirm who is in favour? Can I have a show of hands?
That's everyone in favour, Chair.
Thank you. Point B, are we moving to informal, Joe?
Yes, you just need to formally close the meeting, Chair.
Can I thank members and officers for their attendance today? That now concludes the business of the meeting, and I shall close the meeting and ask for the live stream to be ended. To the public with us on YouTube, thank you for watching. I'd like to remind members to stay connected so that we can move into our informal meeting when the live stream ends. Thank you.